Yo, what's going on, everybody? It is Chad. I'm back here with BetHub.com. This week, I'm going to be providing you guys with my week number 15 NFL selections, top 3 against the spread. Last week was a bit of a hiccup going 1-2. Actually, for the last 2 weeks, we had that exact same record, which has now dropped my overall season record to 500. It's not great, but it's not awful. We have 3 weeks left in the regular season to get things back in order and produce my 4th consecutive winning season of NFL picks, giving them out for you guys here on various places throughout YouTube prior to joining BetHub.com this year. And you know what? The last few weeks, it's just been so frustrating giving out some of those overs that never seem to get there. I don't know why I think I'm some sort of sharp Tommy Totals around here. I think I should stick to the point spreads. Call me PITT point spread, because it seems like that's what I've been having a little bit more success with. So this week, there are so many intriguing, very important games that are going to determine the landscape of the playoff seeding picture moving forward here. And truth be told, I like a lot of these games, and I'm going to be selecting all of them here in my top picks. So let's get straight down to business here with my number 1 overall selection, my gold pick, and I'll be playing on the Atlanta Falcons at home versus the New York Giants, laying under a field goal. Pretty much a pick 'em right now. You're laying half a point, point and a half. The bottom line here is the Atlanta Falcons are a completely undervalued commodity based on their poor performances the last number of weeks. And I think we're getting a discount here with this team at home. I'm not saying that they're necessarily better than the New York Giants. Obviously, this line doesn't indicate that, because then there would be at least a field goal on their home field. But I think the spot sets up real well for them. They really have not played well the last couple of weeks. They were just pumped by Carolina in the first half last week. A little bit too late for that second half rally. They did not play well against New Orleans the week before that. Got sort of lucky with that win. They played terrible against Arizona on that win. And if it wasn't for Arizona being so pathetic offensively, they would have lost. The bottom line here is this team is due to play a much better game. And when you look at the way this team has played on their home field under Matt Ryan and the head coach there, Mike Smith, they've been nothing short of phenomenal. I believe it's 75 or 80% of games they win straight up. And yes, you can point to the fact that they haven't dominated or blown teams out and they've come down to the wire. But the bottom line is they still have only lost 2 games this year. They find ways to win games, especially at home. And you don't have to lay a big price with them. I am very confident in them getting them straight up W on their home field, especially when they played not so good the last few weeks. I think they can match up well with this Giants team, where their weakness still is in the secondary. They can get burnt a little bit, some big strikes downfield. I think that Matt Ryan's going to have a much better game here, use the turf at home and get the boys moving in motion downfield. And, I think that a lot of the times the Giants' success is that fast pass rush. They're going to work some slants. I think Rodgers gets more involved out of the backfield with some screen plays, some dumps. They pretty much abandoned the Michael Turner ground and pound, which is not working the last couple of weeks. And when you look at this New York Giant team here, they are one of the hardest teams to handicap in terms of a weekly basis here. Generally, you like to support them in that road underdog role, but you know what? This spot here reminds me very similar to the Washington game a couple of weeks ago. They looked so impressive on their home field, putting up all these points, creating all these turnovers. They did with New Orleans, much like they did with Green Bay, and then they just did not play a good game in Washington the week after on the road. Well, it's a similar spot here, and I think Atlanta's still a better team than Washington. They're more desperate at home. They want to seal up that number 1 seed right now and get some rest. The Giants in general have not really strung together a lot of good games in a row. There's a little bit of playoff revenge here for the Falcons. Last year, they were absolutely embarrassed in New York, and I think that is going to be in the back of their minds. For the Giants, they have a cushiony 1-game lead, and I just don't see them having quite as much motivation here in this spot. And I think that the Atlanta Falcons don't have a great defense, but they generally play a lot better at home. They force a lot of turnovers. And I think Bradshaw's a little bit banged up here for New York. They have a little bit of tape on Wilson from last week. The running game could be regulated to some degree, making New York a little bit more dimensional, which would play into the hands of the Falcons, who are a little bit ball hawking in that secondary, create some turnovers. I just think Atlanta here, anytime that they're not having to lay a big price on their home field, it always has me intrigued going up against a Giant team, which I don't think is going to be playing up to that level of the Atlanta Falcons here. So that is my first overall pick this week. And now we'll move on to my silver selection, pick number 2. And I'll be taking the Pittsburgh Steelers on the road at the Dallas Cowboys. Pretty much the same point spread as Atlanta, about a point and a half a point. You guys can come on Bet Up here and just challenge it straight up. I've already put my bets out there. I just do it straight money line. I don't care. I'll play a little bit of juice here because, you know what, these games could be that damn close and be a point difference, and I want to make sure that I cash my ticket. But the reason here why I like the Pittsburgh Steelers so much is just more the mindset of these two organizations in a big game with their seasons on the line. When you look at Dallas, they're still a very fragile football team, and I don't expect them to come up in a big spot here and play well on their home field, something they have not done at all since the new stadium has been built here from Jerry Jones the last couple of years. And when you look at Pittsburgh, they played absolutely atrocious against San Diego last week. And prior to that, they really had been playing some good football. And I expect them to continue that. I think having Roethlisberger back in the mix last week was sort of a shock to the offense. They weren't used to it. He may have not been as healthy. But you saw their offense come on a little bit in the second half last week. And I think that that's going to continue over here. Full week of practice with them back in the mix. I think they're going to be able to maybe move the ball a little bit easier than they did against San Diego. And a lot of their bad play was just more of them, just falling apart themselves. Those fumbles, the weird turnovers. San Diego ripping it up on third down, something that defense had not been doing the last couple of weeks, playing very well. I think when you look at Dallas, Dez Bryant's hand isn't 100% healthy right now. That could cause some problems in the passing game. I just don't see Dallas being able to move the ball, and Pittsburgh, who's played much better defensively the last number of weeks. I think Pittsburgh's just the better overall team. I trust them in this spot here. Mike Tomlin's a far superior coach than Jason Garrett, who just does not get it from a play calling perspective. Dallas always starts off the game so passive. They drain that play clock. They can't figure it out. They fall behind early in games because they don't want to throw the ball. They try to establish a run. It never works. And if they fall behind here, Pittsburgh is not going to be giving it up with this big spot here. Pittsburgh has a foul taste left in their mouth from the last time they were in the stadium when they lost the Super Bowl against Green Bay. I think they sort of use that as motivation to come back and play a good game here. I'll take the better overall team with the better overall defense. I'll take Roethlisberger over Romo in a big game. I'll take Tomlin over Jason Garrett. I'll take the Pittsburgh Steelers ownership, and I'll take their overall franchise over the Steelers in a big game. Give me the Steelers at a near pick'em price. And now my bronze selection, number 3 pick here, is going to be the big primetime game here with the 49ers visiting the New England Patriots in primetime on Sunday night. And I absolutely love the 49ers catching 6 points here. The line originally opened at 3 points, but just because New England steamrolled Houston, it caused everybody to lose their minds and I believe overreact. Because when you look back at that game against Houston, it was an absolutely atrocious spot for them. It was their 4th game in 5 nights on the road. I was going to use Houston last week, but I backed off of it for that reason. Their defense has been absolutely decimated the last few weeks with the entire linebacking core out. And New England was just wanting to prove to them on primetime, you ain't going to do nothing in our house. Well, you know what? I think San Francisco is going to be much more ready for this spot here. And I think that their defense is in much better shape compared to what Houston's was going into this matchup, which is going to make all the world of a difference. And when you look at San Francisco, they've only lost 2 games all year by more than this current point spread. And when you look at New England, when they go up against good opponents, they oftentimes win games, but they're usually not by margins. Against teams with winning records this year, they've only won 3 out of 5 games by more than a touchdown. So they don't usually run away with these games. I think last week against Houston, it was a bit more of a fluky situation. Houston imploded. They weren't ready for the big spot. And their execution was awful, something that San Francisco usually is very good at. It's not like Houston didn't move the ball either. In the first half, they did. Every time they got the ball, they were in that no man's line. There were false starts. There were turnovers. They didn't want to go for field goals, bad punting. It just self-imploded on them. I just don't see San Francisco doing that. They don't turn the football over, and that's a lot of the reasons why New England's been pumping teams recently. From a pure yardage standpoint, they really aren't that much better, and I think that it will catch up to them a little bit here in this spot. There's no way this spread should have been adjusted to 3 points that it has been. I think San Francisco gives them all they can handle. I actually expect them to win this game outright, at the very least just by a field goal at the end of it. Frank Gore, even LaMichael James, they'll be able to run the ball, chew some clock, keep New England off the field, and if they try the high-paced offense, you know what? San Francisco has the athletic linebackers to keep them in check. You're not going to... San Francisco out-physicals team, and every time you can have the more physical, dominating team that's motivated, catching points, I am always extremely intrigued here. I think their linebacking core is going to help regulate what New England does so well, those quick strikes, the little slants, and the quick running plays, and then they're going to be forced to go downfield, which, truth be told, is not the strength of the team, which could be maybe a little bit of a weakness in that secondary for San Francisco. I don't think they've had to deal with a mobile quarterback like Kaepernick, who might be able to extend some plays. Their offense has been moving the ball a little bit better. The wide receivers have been making plays downfield. San Francisco has a far superior defense. I think I made my point. I rest my case with the 49ers grabbing the 6 points and, of course, sprinkling some on the money line. So just to summarize, we've got the Atlanta Falcons at home, the Pittsburgh Steelers on the road, and the 49ers is my top 3 plays. A few other games that I am intrigued at. I do somewhat lean to Green Bay at Chicago. Short price. I think the Bears are decimated and free falling right now. I lean towards Houston at home, rebound after that brutal game. Indianapolis has not played well on the road. And I also lean towards Baltimore. Despite the fact they've been playing awful, I think it's a big spot for them at home. Denver eventually has to lose a game here. I'm not so sure they should be favored by a field goal on the road for a team that win 90% of their games at home for the last 4 or 5 years under Harbaugh. So that's a wrap for my picks this week. Make sure to come check out more of the overall picks here on our website at betthub.com. You can see the link below here that I was pointing to. Start your own account. If you already have one, fantastic. Cash in on the bonuses we're giving out right now. Make sure to join the weekly pool. Pick your straight up winners. The winner gets some nice prize money. If you go perfect, an extra $300. And you can trash talk people, start your own bets and challenge friends. It's just a great concept. You guys need to check it out. It's pretty much like the social media, Facebook style of betting. And you know what? If you're going to be out there watching games, it only makes sense to have a couple dollars riding on it. So you might as well get involved here with BetHub.com.